Hello and welcome to our program Violence Free World. My name is Kali Ikpe, and today, as we continue our chat to get a violence-free Nigeria, we have a special guest on the program, the Governor of Imo State, His Excellency Senator Hope Uzodinma. Excellency, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go right into the conversation, but after this, be here. We'll be right back shortly.
The year 2020 could pass as one of the most dramatic in human history, particularly for the deluge of high-octave events that characterized it. Nigeria, like the rest of the world, came under the weight of the COVID-19 pandemic with unprecedented consequences. Interestingly, just as major traces of COVID-19 were fading, the End SARS protest sparked up with a violent coloration, leaving in its wake looting, death, loss of business hours, and wanton destruction of properties, both public and private.
Subject, risk us. Carry refugee, carry brother.
It is perhaps much more interesting to note that a threat to embark on a national industrial action by the organized labor in Nigeria, anchored on a hike in electricity tariffs and pump price of petroleum products, remained unresolved. In the interim, efforts to restore normalcy ensued on multiple fronts, the most notable of which is the deep dives embarked upon by the Nigeria Governors Forum. Some of the events at least succeeded in bringing to the fore the disconnect between the nation's leadership and youth across the country. Youth in the country protested manifest economic neglect, unemployment, a poor learning environment, and the absence of basic health care, among many other issues plaguing the country. It is instructive to note that the End SARS protest elicited a prompt response from the leadership.
In my state, I went out to meet them, and I told them what I'm saying to you here, that look, what you're doing, I'm 100% in support of. But you've made your point. The president have heard you. We as governors, we went to the president to tell him that, look, sir, time to talk to your children, and not a fellow Nigerian speech, father to children speech. I've heard you. You've made your point. Now it's time for you to return home.
The 5-point demand by the End SARS protesters had been acceded to with efforts in place to meet the demands, yet the deficit of trust continues to undermine the pronouncements and the efforts of state governments.
When the End SARS started, I engaged the youth. I met with them and I spoke to them. And out of my personal relationship with them, they understood and withdrew from the protest.
The burden of rebuilding confidence seems to hang heavily on the shoulders of the Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, which as a body is increasingly proving to be a very dependable arbiter.
The forum calls for comprehensive and robust reforms in the police force.
It is still to the credit of the NGF that considerable amounts of palliatives and healthcare packages were gotten from several international donor agencies, CACOVID, and the federal government. Many may also not remember that the NGF negotiated and ensured that a truce between organized labor and the government was achieved. End SARS protests particularly may have put the forum and the individual governors of the 36 states across the country on autodrive as they assiduously worked to win the confidence of the people. But the impatience on the side of the people has remained its bane.
Welcome back. Excellency, now, two major things define 2020, which is the youth revolt, the one popularly known as NSAS, and of course COVID-19. Even though the protest itself was anchored on police brutality, it is now very, very evident, very clear that the factors that actually caused this bordered more on injustice, ranging from bad governance, deprivation, and all sorts. Looking back now at how it happened, would you say the issues that led to this has been largely addressed?
Well, in the first place, the revolt by the young men and women in the country, Christian NSAS, was against a department of the Nigerian Police Force, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. And according to the young men and women, their grievances were that the police were very brutal and hard on them, to the extent that the hostility has led to the death of some young men and women. That was the story. Of course, pathetic enough for every reasonable mind to sympathize with. And in the course of trying to calm these youths down, explain to them the need for a peaceful existence. Now, some politicians hijacked the protest and they turned the protest into something else that became outrageous. And we eventually discovered that the whole idea was intentioned by some aggrieved members of the opposition parties to the government of the day to create what I can call a synchronized national crisis. So the government rose to the occasion, the security agencies came in, and they were able to stop the crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic was a global issue, or is a global issue. It started from China. From China it got into Europe, to the United States, and now to Africa. Of course, we relied on the wise counsel of Center for Disease Control in Nigeria, Nigerian Center for Disease Control. Did the best we could. I can say that Almighty God managed this occasion here in Nigeria. Because with our limited resources, with the poor state of our healthcare system, we were able to manage the crisis to the extent that today we have least number of deaths, least number of those that were infected, and by the grace of God, even the second coming, the resurgence, has not been so terrible compared to what we've seen in other climes.
Okay, Excellency, I'm going to touch on the two again. The COVID-19, a lot of Nigerians, young people especially, were beginning to feel immune and say this is actually not our thing, as far, especially where you view the fact that it was predicted that there was going to be large casualties around here, and it never was the case. And again, to the other issue, which is that of the NSAS again. Like I said, I'm going to touch on both. Did that strike you to like somehow passing the vote of no confidence on the present crop of leadership in Nigeria?
It is not, because first of all, if you're a young man, if you're a young woman growing up, you must understand the culture of your people. Never in the history of this country have we gotten rebellion from young men and women against leadership. Growing up, I was taught how to be loyal and law-abiding to not only government, to parents and the elders. So for a young man to suddenly wake up overnight, took arms and begin to destroy things, is abnormal. It's strange to our culture. You must acknowledge also the African culture, the Nigerian culture, is about children being loyal to the establishment, being loyal to their elderly ones, and then understanding the environment and demography of their place, because that is our identity. So what we saw was very strange, and that was probably responsible for the poor management or unacceptable management by some group of people. On the issue of COVID-19, for the young people to say it is not for us. We are clearly here, we see people dying out from this infection. Relations died from this infection, clinically confirmed. Well, anybody saying it's not here, it's not for us, without any clinical demonstration of scientific demonstration or clear evidence, scientific evidence of what they are saying, of course, that can be called just mere perception. But I think that COVID-19 is real. One of the most serious countries in the world, like America, like Britain, like China, cannot be suffering and dying every day. Serious multinational world-class companies like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, cannot undertake the kind of research and production of vaccines they have done, spending billions of dollars they spend. So I don't think that anybody should be wallowing in this ignorance of saying that this thing is not here, it's not for us. Because those that have been buried have been buried, and God knows may not come out here again for now.
Excellency, let's look at your relationship as a leader with the youth of Imo State. We've observed that a number of youth are involved with the Eastern Security Network and the, what's happening at Olu presently. Aside the brutal repression used in the military, what other steps are you taking to ensure that you make these young people retrace their steps and rather join you in rebuilding Imo State?
When the answers started, I engaged the youth. I met with them and I spoke to them. And out of my personal relationship with them, they understood and withdrew from the protest. Unfortunately, some people somewhere hijacked the protest and then begin to perform criminal activities. So for me, I relate very well and very cordial with the youth of Imo people. No wonder I've just finished training over 15,000 young men and women that in the next 1 or 2 weeks will be empowered with the various kits to begin to establish the businesses they have been trained on how to do.
Before you continue rolling at that, I remember when at the heat of it all, I saw you and them directly at the heat of it very well, calling on the Imo youths to rise up and defend Imo State from the possible hijackers that were possibly everywhere.
Yeah,
did they respond well?
It will interest you to know that they themselves came to me.
Yes.
That some strange people came into the state. And what they're doing now is not from them. That we should do something. And that was how we now woke up and begin to see people burning down police stations, burning down local governments, burning down magistrate courts. How do you think a youth from Imo State with same mind will wake up overnight, begin to kill his brothers and sisters? For what reason? So all we should do is not to be deceived by propaganda. We must know now that some people are against the unity, the destiny of this country. And prevention, they say, is better than cure. The earlier we remove politics and defend the sovereignty of our country and the unity, integration, and cohesion of our country, the better for all of us.
Okay, Excellency, when we return from this break, we will have you comment on this issue, the contentious issues of amnesty to perpetrators of violence. But that will be after we return from the break. This is Violence Free World. We'll be right back after this time out. Welcome back. This is Violence Free World, and on the hot seat, on the seat of peace rather, is Senator Hope Uzodimma, His Excellency, the Governor of Imo State. Right, Excellency, before we went on the break, I did hint that I will have you comment on this contentious issue of amnesty for perpetrators of violence. Just because it worked in the Niger Delta when militants were bombing everywhere. Some people think it's a kind of situation one size fits all. Terrorists being asking for amnesty to be paid money. Also, if some people feel that some people are taking us for granted now, what would be your comment? Should bandits be given amnesty? How would this help?
Well, amnesty, to the extent of what I know, is a terminology used for political prisoners. I don't know how and where in the world amnesty is being granted to murderers, being granted to people who abduct human beings, dehumanize them, collect ransom, take their lives, and then after you grant them amnesty. For me, in my opinion, amnesty is a word. The history of amnesty started with the granting of pardon to political prisoners. It may have worked in the Niger Delta if it did, but I don't think I will support any arrangement that will grant an armed robber amnesty, a kidnapper amnesty, a murderer amnesty. Then why do we have our constitution? So I think that something must act as a deterrent that will make people not commit certain crimes tomorrow. If you come to anybody's house, take lives, collect monies, collect materials, escape, and then 6 months after you've been caught, you'll be asking for amnesty, then we don't have a country. So I think that security agencies must be allowed to do their job. The defense of our constitution, the defense of the various statutes that exist in this country should be allowed in the hands of those who have been appointed by our constitution to do that. If you want to repent, go to the church or to the mosque and repent. And surrender yourself to the chief imam or to the bishop for your sins to be forgiven. That's the moral aspect of life and society. But for running a legitimate country and talking about, in one breath, you are not talking about injustice. You are not talking about fairness. You are not talking about marginalization. You are talking about those who are under one influence of one alcohol or drug, who wants to derail the society. They will take life, they will kidnap a bishop from the church, they will put a bishop in the boot, and 2 weeks after, they will come and ask for amnesty. Then what kind of country are we running?
Okay, part of the solution, part of the measures again is this issue of this self-defense that some of your colleagues have been involved in debating too. Governor Otom, Governor Bala, and Darius Ishaku have been speaking concerning arms, where they say maybe private licensing of guns for individuals will help. Just so when anyone coming to attack you knows you're armed, probably they may tread with caution, and then the actually maybe less. Bala himself now was saying they're trying to rationalize why the Fulani headsman goes about with a gun, a rifle, and he said he's vulnerable. That's why possibly, which is like saying the same thing. What would be your comments to that?
I don't want to join issues with any of my colleagues. The government is inanimate without the person, the holder of government. There is no government in Bauchi without the governor. There is no government in Benue without the governor. Likewise, there is no government in Imo State without the governor, myself seated here. And what is government? The primary purpose of government is the protection of lives and property. If you now relinquish the primary purpose of government and why you are being paid with taxpayers' money to individuals to self-defend themselves, then there is no government. I will not say more than this.
No private licensing of guns for individuals, at least. All right, Excellency. Well, maybe you're leaving us to guess what it is that you have in your mind as far as that call is concerned. We'll go ahead and guess. It's all right.
Nice.
Okay, you are governor of Imo State, quite right, but you're a leader, you're a Nigerian leader, and I know how concerned you must possibly feel going by what's going on now, this issue of ethnic profiling. Crime has got a tribe now. Crime has got religion. Crime has got all sorts of things attached to it. As we crave peace for our country at the disco, what can we do to better chart the course?
Whatever that is happening today in Nigeria is political. Some people are bad losers. And there is this crop of aggrieved set of politicians who have refused to manage their losses in a manner that the democracy will accept, who are bent in pulling down the government of the day. The earlier we identified them and removed their names from the manifest before our aircraft lands, the better for all of us.
Maybe I should have said, particularly, the name that rings the loudest in this ethnic profiling is Fulani headsman, to which I was talking with one of your officials recently, and he also thinks very much that they are as much as victims as any other victim. Anyway, do you share in this belief too?
There are challenges of leadership.
Yes.
And there is none that comes without advantages and disadvantages. If you are a leader, you are supposed to handle and manage your areas of strength and also handle and manage your areas of challenges. Growing up in this state, I met Fulani herdsmen rearing cattle. As a young man, when they are passing, we used to come out from the backyard to watch cattle pass. We used to come out and see sanitary inspectors pass, coming to inspect our toilets and inspect all these things. We used to see research officers coming from Omudike, Omai, to come and check the cassava that is good and the cassava that is not good. These things were managed and introduced by our colonial masters, and nobody died. So I don't know whether Africa, there's something wrong with us, because we try almost every time to undertake things that we can manage. What is wrong in a herdsman rearing his cattle, relating with his brother who is a farmer? You know, even as a human being, for us to be healthy, we need protein, we need carbohydrates. So a farmer who produces yam, produces rice, produces every sort of farm produce, to make the thing palatable, needs protein.
True.
So we have to live together. So it's just to manage our shortcomings and plan our life in a manner that it will be all-inclusive, And we should be able to tolerate each other, no matter the challenge.